and the Ad Council.
Gather round. This is the Ticket Water Cooler, brought to you by Culligan of Lincoln.
You need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here.
Coming at you live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
On air and online at theticketfm.com. Here are your hosts, Jake Bakoven and Nathan Brennan.
Happy 4th of July weekend to everybody out there. This is the Ticket Water Cooler live from the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese right here at 84th and Havelock today from 3 to 6 p.m. Today's special buy one, get one free on Steakhouse Blend Hamburger Patties. Offer is good only for the duration of the show today. Not just the Ticket Water Cooler, though, on the block as well. Again, we'll be out here till 6, so come down and get a buy one, get one free on Steakhouse Blend Hamburger Patties, and I'm sure they'll raise some eyebrows at your barbecue or whatever you're doing this weekend. Come by and check out their incredible variety of meats with all types of cuts. Plus, there's some seafood, too, if you want some of that. On the Block with Strick and Bach, by the way, is sponsored by the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese. So that's why we're here today, where we're at. And, of course, the Ticket Water Cooler jumping in as well. Nate, back in studio. How you doing, Nate Dogg? How are you getting ready for your 4th of July weekend?
I'm going to a winery tonight, Bach, but I will say I miss you around here. You should come back.
I was there like 30 minutes ago.
I know. We got to talk for a little bit, filling in on the happy hour. So we had some fun talking about everything college football, and I have a good feeling that's what we're going to be talking about today here too.
And thank God, because I'd talk about college football regardless, and we try to find different ways to, do historical lists or reminisce about the year 1998 or whatever.
Which is always fun.
Which is always good too. But man, is there some news and some football to talk. I did want to mention this real quick, just off the top, that because we do want to get to the breaking news too across the country, as it is free agency day in NBA, and that means plenty of trades. The big one probably to this date, up until about 30 minutes ago, maybe, was Malcolm Brogdon joining the Boston Celtics as they were looking for a point guard that maybe could run the offense a little bit better. Yeah, your Pacers gave me Brogdon basically for a couple stacks of paper. I think some paper clips were thrown in. A future first rounder is really what it's based around, and then a few guys at the end of the Celtics bench to make the money work. So that's kind of interesting. As you always see which way teams are going. Who's for what it's worth, Brogdon's contract is coming up at the end of the year, so it was basically just trying to get something for him for the Pacers. And then we see not too long ago, about a half an hour ago, Rudy Gobert traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, coming over from the Utah Jazz. Part of that package is Patrick Beverley now leaving the Timberwolves, which I love the Timberwolves play-in game because they celebrated like they won the championship.
Yeah, they were all crying.
It was like the first, it's been a while since they had a playoff victory or been in the playoffs. So it's kind of sad to see the Pat Bev era, I suppose, in the Twin Cities. But Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns is the new Twin Towers, I think, in Minnesota. That's not exactly how teams have won championships over the last 2.5 decades, I suppose. Maybe since the Spurs did it with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Do you see that working out? I mean, do you like the Minnesota going big there?
No, not really. It reminds me kind of Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins in New Orleans, which failed miserably. And then maybe more recently, Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner. That might be a little bit of a stretch because I don't think they're as good of players as either of those guys. But your team was based around two bigs that play two different styles of basketball. So, no, I don't really see it working. And you look at the haul that Minnesota gave up for it, too. I mean, you're giving up first-round draft picks, which
4 of them,
which is very valuable. So they better hope that Rudy Gobert's the answer because I certainly don't think so.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. I think it will work out a little bit with Karl Anthony Towns as a stretch 4. It's going to hurt his rebounding numbers, I suppose. But Rudy obviously is there more at the Stifle Tower to be a rim protector and a lob guy. So they're very different big men. So there's at least that into play. And so we'll kind of see how it works with they still got D'Angelo Russell and obviously Ant out there. So they got a few young guys that maybe I guess they felt like the time is now to go out there and strike. But I'm with you. I'm not sure if Rudy should be 4 draft picks and Walker Kessler, who was their draft pick. So it's basically 5 draft picks first-round draft picks.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Texter Simba says Dirk and Tyson Chandler.
Oh, there you go.
I guess that worked though.
That's a
good
comparison too with their playing styles. So, I kind of forget about Tyson Chandler a little bit, as that was very much
2011. It was a good time, Buck.
Oh, it was. So that'll be interesting, and we'll kind of follow that along today. We'll certainly ask Strick about it, as he is our NBA expert, having played in that league. I mean, I think that makes a little bit of sense.
We will defer to him.
I did like the conversation that you guys were having too there on the happy hour. Is how do you see UCLA and USC coming in and competing in the Big Ten? Not just, obviously a lot of yesterday was about, just the shock of it and what it means in recruiting and all this sort of stuff. But as far as, on the field, I think I know USC is basically as far as like last year and the last couple of years, they're dealing with the Clay Helton problem right now. They've moved on to Lincoln Riley, but I just see that I don't think that it's smart to group them in together. And that's kind of what Colin Cowherd did, which was the response you kind of had, you guys were reacting to. But USC has certainly a higher ceiling than UCLA. UCLA is basically the little brother to USC. So grouping them together and thinking, okay, well, they both come from the same town, the same part. So, is it going to be a similar effect on both of them? I don't necessarily think so. And I'm saying that despite the fact that, UCLA went 8-4 last year and USC went 4-8. And so it's kind of weird for me to say, hold on. That 4-8 USC team, you should hold them in a different conversation. But to me, kind of this big move that was made yesterday changes the Big Ten landscape in obviously many different ways. But the big one that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is Ohio State has a ceiling that's higher than anybody else in the Big Ten. Historically, you have to go back years and years for Michigan to be in that conversation. Penn State can pop up once in a while. Nebraska obviously has lived, we love to live in the 90s and all that. But I'm talking about like modern day football. Ohio State was unchallenged in the Big Ten in that way. And I know there's so much going on in college football and competing with the SEC and the super conferences and all that. But I guess if I thought of one team that might have a problem with the additions, maybe it would be Ohio State, thinking, hey, now, there's only Batman and Robin in this league. Now you're bringing in a Superman to fight Batman, and so I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic from the Buckeyes' point of view.
I just think you just need to hold your horses a little bit, Bach. And I know that you love USC and you're buying Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, which I am too. But it's just there's so much transition that goes into moving from a conference like a Pac-12 into the Big Ten. I mean, you can speak on it firsthand when Nebraska did it. There were some growing pains. We're still dealing with those growing pains now with the addition of Scott Frost, for crying out loud. And I'm not comparing Lincoln Riley to any of the past coaches that Nebraska's had in the last 20 years, because I think that'd be somewhat unfair to do, because Lincoln Riley is at the very top of coaches in college football. But there's going to be growing pains, man. And it's just I love how the texters bring up you're going to have to play Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, back-to-back, and the wind is blowing 30 miles an hour in your face. You don't. And the thing is, they're recruiting for the Pac-12, and it'll be interesting because you can speak on this a little bit. I know that Bo Pelini struggled with that a little bit when he was recruiting for one league, and then you're thrown into another that's completely different. I mean, if there's anyone that can do it, it's Lincoln Riley. For crying out loud, he got Caleb Williams to follow him into the Pac-12. But the recruiting looks different. Coaching looks different. The brand of football looks different. And you can bring up Chip Kelly, and me and Nick mentioned that. Chip Kelly can't coach in the Big Ten. There's just no way. There's no way that his coaching style is going to work in the Big Ten. And that's what's going to be really interesting to see how UCLA shifts in all this, because I think UCLA come October, November is going to get pounded week in and week out.
Well, and of course, it's fascinating to see how all this transpires, because is it going to be – I mean, you'd have to think that regardless of how many teams that are added to the Big Ten, there's still going to be this Big Ten footprint to a degree, right? But if you do go into the future – right now the reports are that the Big Ten is kind of standing pat with Washington and Oregon, waiting for Notre Dame to make a decision. But I think part of the idea is that as the Pac-12 kind of gets poached by these other conferences, and mostly the Big Ten, is that you're going to get a few westerly opponents, West Coast opponents for USC and UCLA. Is that going to change their style? Are they going to be put in a pod with those teams and then only have to, worry less about playing more of the traditional Big Ten games? It's all yet to be determined, and we kind of have to see where it all goes. But no, I agree with you. I think UCLA stands a big challenge in front of it. I'll ask you this. What do you think are the chances we see Chip Kelly versus Scott Frost in a Big Ten game?
Oh, my.
What do you think? It's under 10%?
I would have to say that it's pretty low. But I have much more I have much more faith that we're going to see Scott Frost there opposed to Chip Kelly, man. I mean, I just do not see that transition going well. And it's tough. And that's the thing too, is this is nothing against Chip Kelly. He's been to a national championship. He's coached at the Power 5 level and been very successful. The Big Ten is a different brand of football. Like it is something that no other conference has. And a lot of it does have to do with weather and location, and whether you think that's right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just the reality of the Big Ten. And every time you go play Minnesota in November, they're going to run the ball 55 times, and they're going to say, you're going to have to beat us this way. And I just don't see UCLA ever under any capacity under Chip Kelly being able to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Chip Kelly's style is going to work here. And it's already kind of had its tryout period here at Nebraska. Now, with UCLA, obviously, you're kind of thinking more California speed, getting those athletes and stuff like that. So, and then the biggest thing is offensive line.
Right.
I think sometimes we overanalyze, like Scott Frost, the Chip Kelly offense won't work because it didn't work at Nebraska. Well, it never really had a chance to because the weapons weren't in place. Like a fully like stocked offense might work. That's why I think about USC. Like, I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. And I don't think it's as easy as they'll just roll over all these teams. Like USC full strength will just roll over all these teams. But I think it's similar to Ohio State, right? Where Ohio State 1 or 2 times a year is going to get scared, caught off guard, playing a tough game on the road in Kinnick Stadium, or and we've seen it. They've gotten curb stomped by Iowa and Purdue over the years at times. I mean, it can happen. And I think the similar thing with USC. I will agree with you on the fact that maybe I am putting the cart above the horse a little bit and thinking that USC's back. Because we've never seen Lincoln Riley rebuild a team. He took over a fully stocked team from one of the greatest coaches of all time at Oklahoma. Don't worry, Oklahoma Boomers, Sooners. I didn't say the greatest coaches. I just said one of the greatest coaches there, which I believe to be true. Bud Wilkinson might have something to say about that. But in any case, I just think USC has taken advantage of the and when we talk about the transfer portal winners, it's a joke not to have anybody besides USC at the top. And Caleb Williams certainly stands out above the rest
alone,
there.
Yeah.
But not alone, though, in that group. You have Jordan Addison, probably the second big addition. You have Mario Williams, who's going to make that wide receiver unit good. You have Travis Dye, who's one of the leading receivers in the Pac-12, and throw a couple guys on defense over there, too, that they recruited. I mean, that's why I think the turnaround might be pretty quick there is – I mean, I don't know how else to say this. They literally added one of the best rushers in the Pac-12, maybe the best receiver in the nation, and maybe the best quarterback in the nation. That's why I guess a quick turnaround might happen.
And that's why I say he stands alone is Caleb Williams. We're going to be looking at one day is going to be the number 1 overall draft pick. I have no reason to doubt that he would be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, the kid came in as a true freshman and took Spencer Rattler's job, who was the projected number 1 overall pick before the season started. My only thing is, one, Caleb Williams, they don't grow on trees, right? It's just you got him in the building. He has another 2 years in college. I'm assuming that he'll be very successful at USC. And another thing that we aren't talking about, Bach, is that while Ohio State does have those games in the Big Ten where scared, timid, whatever you want to call it, I mean, it's Big Ten football, you still are in Ohio. You are still able to prepare for something like that, maybe not to the capacity of a Nebraska and Iowa, Minnesota, but these kids in Los Angeles, how can you possibly prepare yourself for a 10-degree game in Minnesota? You can't. You cannot. And some of these kids, for crying out loud, these kids that they're recruiting in California, they've never even seen snow. Like, how do you possibly prepare for that? I think that's a big part of this that a lot of people aren't really mentioning is just the brand of football and how much weather really does make an impact.
Well, and it does, and I think it's a fair point. And again, I think that some of those games will certainly lead to kind of what we're talking about, where occasionally Ohio State is scared, and it might happen a little bit more often toward the end of the season with USC. But I just kind of think back to that Minnesota Ohio State game, and what a game that was. As we are 1 month away, by the way, next month. Not exactly 1 month. You got to add a bunch of days. But next month, Nebraska will be playing college football.
Yes.
So how about that now that it's July 1st?
Boom shakalaka.
I just think about, there you go. I just think about Ohio State and Minnesota opening up last year. And Ohio, awesome. and it was an awesome game. And Mo Ibrahim ended up getting hurt. But, they were running the clock out. He had like 25 carries by halftime or whatever it was. And Minnesota was doing a great job of staying in that game. However, their defense, you just could see, and as great as Minnesota's defense was, it was a top 10 defense last year, did not have the speed at the second level. Like if Ohio State guy got free and caught the ball, nobody could catch him. And that's why they ended up scoring like 45 points. Now, Ohio State, that is a special offense last year and going into this year.
Right.
So I don't know if USC's, as much as they would probably by next pick, I don't know if they're going to be even as lethal still as what they have up there in Columbus. But that's kind of my point there is, I still think that speed's going to take over in a lot of those scenarios. And I love the Big Ten defense. I love the Big Ten West, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, rugged defense that's going to smother opponents for the most part. But we have to admit that oftentimes, although sometimes those defensive battles do win, when they play Ohio State, when they, at times when they play in their bowl games, you kind of get shown, well, maybe those defensive numbers wouldn't be so good if they weren't playing, Illinois and Iowa. Right. Like Iowa's off, like as good as those defenses are at Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, the offenses are not. So, I think that's something to consider too. But there's a lot to consider as we move forward here. Let's do a fun exercise. We don't know where college football is going, but it seems like it's headed toward two massive conferences in the SEC and the Big Ten. So it kind of feels like, the NFL type of scenario in the future. So let's narrow down if it happens this way. It's impossible to kind of think of it because if you have 50 to 60 teams, how are you going to get scheduling out there? But if you put the NFL model, then I think we can kind of visualize it. The only problem with that is we need to narrow our list down to about 32 teams. Let's do that. Let's narrow our list down to 32 teams that would make our cut in an NFL model for college football moving forward. That's coming up next year on the Ticket Watercooler. We're live from the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. We'll be right back.
In your busy life, very little is free, but your next home might be a bit less than you think with a free appraisal from Security First Bank. Free home appraisals from Security First Bank. We're the bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Offer valid through December 31st, 2022 on secondary market new home purchase loans only. One free appraisal per transaction. Appraisals paid for by lender at closing. Subject to lender qualifications. See lender for details. NMLS number 505011.
In today's day and age, people are trying to do more and more projects by themselves. That might be better on the wallet, but it can also lead to painful sounds like this. Ow! Poor guy, trying to do wiring all by himself. Let's have another listen. It's just not worth it. Don't hurt yourself or make things worse than they are already. For any of your electric needs, call Joe at Ambition Electric today at 402-217-3415 or go to ambitionelectric.com.
Sandhills Global is hiring. Check out sandhills.jobs for more information. Sandhills is looking to fill hundreds of new openings in sales, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Sandhills has a professional culture and is fast-paced with a focus on growth, innovation, and leading-edge technologies. Career and internship opportunities are available at our global headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Apply today at sandhills.jobs.
Swing for the fences with single-game tickets to see Lincoln's best lineup on and off the diamond. The Salt Dog season is stacked with reasons to spend your summer at Haymarket Park. Get a free general admission ticket when you donate 3 non-perishable food items on Triple Play Tuesdays. Eat $2 Fairbury brand dogs on Wiener Wednesdays. Score drink specials on Thirsty Thursdays, then win your weekend with Firework Fridays, Souvenir Saturdays, and Sunday Family Fun Days presented by Casey's. Get tickets at saltdogs.com.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.07 per hour and other select jobs starting at $23.77 per hour, with wages growing up to $29.71 per hour. Continental also has salaried jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Herrick Services takes this time to wish everyone a happy and healthy 4th of July weekend. We are thankful for this great nation and celebrate our independence, which should never be taken for granted. This important message comes to you from Bart, Mike, and the folks at Herrick Services, your vending specialists here in Lincoln. Their quality service and expertise has earned them a fine reputation. That's Herrick Services, on the air because they care. Brown Shoe Fit has all types of shoes for you to excel this summer. Check out their new Keen and Tiva brand sandals for hiking and Olukai sandals for sitting by the pool. Plus, they're stocked up on Hey Dudes to catch you up on the latest shoe fashion. They also have shoes in brands like Brooks, Hoka, Merrell, On, and many more. Browns has the local professionals to get the proper fit, aided by their high-tech foot scanner by Atrex. Stop by Brown Shoe Fit today, just south of 66th and Q in Lincoln.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
The Lincoln forecast today, we'll see a chance of scattered showers and storms throughout the day. Highs a little bit cooler, around 82. Tonight, see another chance of scattered showers and storms with a low of around 65. And tomorrow, more scattered showers and storms return to the area. We'll see a high of around 84. I'm meteorologist Kyle Kleckner for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
2-1 count, and that's a deep drive into the gap. Smith rounding first base. It's a stand-up double.
Hey, Nick, speaking of doubles, did you know Wings and Rings has 2 ways to enjoy their next-level food?
Rico, we're in the middle of a game.
The game can wait, Nick. One way is to stop by one of their Lincoln locations. They have 2 great locations at O Street, Meridian Park, and 40th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village.
You said 2 ways. What's the other way?
You can order online at wingsandrings.com.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler. Brought to you by Culligan of Lincoln on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Happy Bobby Bonilla Day to everybody out there. Bonilla is cashing in on $1.19 million today. He'll receive that until the year 2035. So still quite a bit of time for Bobby Bonilla Day to exist in our culture. Very, very crazy. I like that. That's some forward thinking from Bobby Bonilla. Did you know the kind of the story beyond that is that he was his contract, it was like a 1-year deal with the Mets that they had to pay him like $6 million or something. And so instead he said, well, don't pay me that. Just wait a decade and then start paying me in increments, $1 million a year. And so you're kind of thinking, well, that's not that big of a hit. And by then, maybe we'll make that much money. So he ended up fleecing the Mets for basically it's going to be like $29 million instead of like the $6 million that he
what
that he
an agent this guy has. I want to know who his agent has because that is a scheme.
That is true. We always call it Bobby Bonilla Day, and it makes sense. But we should really name it after his agent for how he was able to do that, as that is quite cool. Speaking of agent, also some history made the other day as Jessica Holtz is actually Carl Anthony Towns representative, as well as Booker's down there in Phoenix. She's the first female player agent to secure a max contract, and she did it with 2 super max deals on the same day. So some history being made there yesterday as well. Nice. So obviously deserves a shout out there. But let's get into our NFL version of college football, what it would look like, the teams that we would pick from each conference. And so more importantly, it's kind of the teams that are left out, but there's a lot of teams that are just obvious here. So I'll let you, do you have a list or do you want me to? I kind of have a list of simple.
Well, I have my list and I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I have 20 untouchables. So it's no matter what happens, say they only went with 20 teams, I have 20 untouchables. So I guess I kind of
have some untouchables as well. And then I have some guys in parentheses that I go, well, okay, if we're going to stretch it out to 32, we can do that here.
Right. All right. I'll go through my untouchables then. Clemson, Florida State, Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, Notre Dame, USC, UCLA, Oregon, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Texas A&M, Auburn, LSU, and Michigan State. So those are my 20 untouchables. So if they were to go to this format, those teams are 100% in. And that's what worries me is then I'm only left with 12.
Right.
Which
and I think you're right.
That's tough.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I have the same amount of untouchables in there. Did you have so you have Notre Dame in there as well?
Yeah.
Outside of the power conferences, and from there you just kind of got to put something together. And I don't know how they would do it necessarily. If you would try to get TV markets, then maybe like a Houston is more interesting.
Oh my goodness, wouldn't that?
But if
blow
you're
things up, yeah.
I mean, so that's kind of interesting. Or do you kind of go with traditional fan bases? And I think TV markets maybe to a degree a thing of the past, and more together you're trying to, because these conferences are going nationwide now. So I mean it's kind of interesting. Maybe that would still play a factor in there, but I just kind of added a few teams from I think just history that should probably get in, and maybe a little bit based on how I don't know how they've been doing lately.
Now you be careful what you say right here, Bach. I've got my eye on you, and there's one team I didn't list that I'm curious to see if you do.
All right. Well,
don't you leave them out.
I'll throw my untouchables to see if they're the same here, right? Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska, USC, and UCLA from the new Big Ten. Florida State, Clemson, and Miami from the ACC. Nothing from the Big 12. Sorry, everybody.
SEC, you don't have Oklahoma, Texas?
Oh, I included them in my SEC.
Consider them SEC? Okay.
Yeah. So the SEC have Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. And then in the Pac-12, Oregon and Washington, and then obviously Notre Dame. So I think that's the same. Is that the same?
You didn't have Auburn is the one that I had.
I do have Auburn.
Oh, you do?
Well.
Do you have Michigan State?
No.
So you have Penn State, and I have Michigan State.
As an untouchable?
Yeah, that's the one difference we have. So we can throw Penn State in there.
Yeah,
so
I would probably put Michigan State in as well, because I kind of did my others in kind of parentheses that I would probably add, and I got up to 29. So you tell me what you think. I also have Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan State, or in your case, Penn State, making the cut. Minnesota could be pretty close there, but I don't have them in exactly. I have North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and the Hokies.
Hey, I was about to say, you be careful what you say right there, Bach.
Hey. You need Lane Stadium. You need that atmosphere.
Yes,
I think moving forward in college football. For the Big 12, I think Baylor and Oklahoma State would be additions that I'd certainly make sure to add. And then from there, that leads me up to 29. So I basically have 3 more to pick from, and it's just kind of throwing darts at this point. I got listed some teams out there I would consider. I mentioned Minnesota, Arkansas, Iowa State, Colorado, Stanford, K-State, Texas Tech, Arizona. You could go with some of the basketball schools in Kansas, Kentucky, or Duke, and it's really hard to like pick one or the other because it feels like you're just playing favoritism there. But to round out the exercise for me at least, I think I would go with probably Colorado, have Minnesota, probably maybe Colorado, Minnesota, and Arkansas.
Yeah, I'd throw Arkansas in there. I'm trying to think who would be the worst left. I think West Virginia is a tough one to leave out.
West Virginia is a good one. Virginia themselves?
No, Virginia is useless.
No.
We don't need Virginia for anything. Maybe like a Cal.
Cal could be in there, yeah.
That's the tough thing is you do this. We don't have South Carolina, Missouri, Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me the most is, like you said, to start this exercise, Bach, is it's not the teams that are in, it makes you think the teams that are left over, because if this is 32, there's still 25 other schools in the Power 5 that are left out of that. What do they do? Or do we relegate them to the group of 5? But then when you do that in this new scheme scenario, whatever you want to call it, there's never going to be a group of 5 again. When you have 2 power conferences, there's absolutely no chance a group of 5 ever makes it to a playoff, no matter how big the playoff is. So what do these other schools do?
Yeah, I don't know if you're playing in the same league. I mean, you might be playing instead of like a Power 5, Group of 5 model, you might be playing more FBS, FCS, and whatever's in between there, right? And so I think that might be the ultimate scenario. For what it's worth, I don't think we're headed toward a 32-team league like we threw out here. So I don't think it's as dire, and all those schools will miss out like we're talking about. But you are looking at basically what happened the other day with UCLA and USC moving, and now Oregon and Washington reportedly ready to move,
on the move,
just waiting to see if Notre Dame gets added to the Big Ten. Is you've just got kind of the leftovers of the Pac-12 and the Big 12 now kind of looking to pick each other apart. And so it's going to be weird to see which one of those leagues survives. Are they going to try to survive? And certainly they are. Every one of them has their commissioner. They have their structure together that they're going to make it. But how are those teams going to bid? Would the Big 12 make different decisions on who they were adding just months ago if they knew that the Pac-12, if you could pick apart Arizona State, and Colorado or whatever? So it's fascinating to see how it moves forward. And you also kind of have to feel bad for the BYUs and, the UCFs and Cincinnati and all those teams that just got the Big 12 invite thinking, okay, understandably, we're not going to make as much money as the SEC or the Big 10, but we finally made it. We're finally going to be respected as a Power 5 type unit, even if it's the bottom end of it. And now you just don't know if that is there moving forward. What I'm most fascinated with is if it is going to be the two-team or the two kind of the two-horse race between the SEC and the Big 10, or if the ACC, who's not been poached too much so far. You have to remember Maryland,
you can
got
have
taken
them.
away. Right. It's not a huge loss. It's not like losing Texas or Oklahoma, right? They kept their big.
It's not
big
like
dogs
losing
in there.
Clemson or Miami.
Yeah, right. So the ACC is still pretty much in full strength, while the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are in shambles. Maybe they stay pat, just add a few teams, and then you have a merger between the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and you still can have your 4 super conferences, which is what a lot of people felt moving forward. But even then, you're right; it's so imbalanced that what does it mean to lose one game in this, in this idea moving forward? If Clemson has one loss at the end of the season, with that, if you're playing conference only and you're playing the ACC against 3 loss teams from the SEC and in the Big 10, is that going to make it in the playoffs? I don't know. And certainly more than anything, an expanded playoff is certain now, which is very sad for me because, like I was just saying, the regular season no longer is going to have that special college feel to it. Certainly you can have upsets in Major League Baseball, in the NFL, and even in college basketball. You have big upsets, and it's kind of fun. But it's not the same as an upset in college football as it has been for the history of college football, where it's like if you get this monumentous upset, especially early September ones always had the most fun for me. It took that team out of the championship running. Now, moving forward with these kind of giant leagues and 12-team playoffs and stuff like that, getting knocked off in September
Doesn't matter.
Isn't going to matter all that much. You just have to avoid 2 to 3 losses. So that's the special feeling of college football that I never wanted to leave with college football expansion on the way. And this all but solidifies it. And so it's kind of a sad day for me and for college football traditionalists out there, because there's something being lost. And it's all for money and greed and all that. And so we can understand that. And I think it'll be fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. An expanded playoff for those weeks will be fun. You're just going to have all these teams left and right playing each other, national brands. But I don't think it's going to change the fact that by the end of the season, we think that there's only about 3 or 4 teams that realistically can compete. So maybe then you change, an upset in the playoffs can kind of replace that. But to me, it's not quite the same.
I don't see an upset in the playoff happening because in this scenario, Bach, what are we considering an upset? A 4-seeded Ohio State beating a 1-seed Alabama? That's not an upset.
That's
if it
not
was
the upset.
right? Cincinnati beating an Alabama last year, sure, that we would consider a major upset. You're not even going to have the opportunity in this. And you say maybe a power 4 is where we're headed. How long does it take then for that to become a power 2? Because this handshake agreement or whatever it is, that's thrown out the window. That's done. That's toast. It's over.
The alliance?
The alliance is garbage. It was garbage from the beginning because money talks. And that's my issue with all this NIL stuff is that all of this is based off of money, which I understand, and that's how life works. But it is still college athletics, and it certainly doesn't feel that way. And I think we're more headed towards a 32 teams are given the opportunity to play in a playoff, to play in a championship game, however they want to design it, and the other teams are just going to be left and thrown to the mud. And it's sad, and I hate to see a team like a Kansas State or a West Virginia who have had historically very great seasons in the past. And now for what? Just so you can play UCF and Houston every year, and this slice of the pie that you want is never going to be given to you. And it's not fair, and it's never been fair. But this is reaching the point where you don't even have a chance. Because those teams like Kansas State and West Virginia, listen, you play in the Big 12 where, it's not the best competition. If you beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship, you're in the playoff. You have a chance to go to a New Year's Six Bowl. You're not even going to be given the opportunity, and it's tough to watch, and I'm curious to see if it actually goes to this 2-conference setup because you cannot logistically have 30 teams in each conference and make it work. You just can't. It's not feasible.
And it also feels like there's a possibility that this just kind of goes, completely in a circle, and we find ourselves right back to where we were. Where if you just have 2 power conferences and you're splitting them down into divisions or pods that are like 18 pods, it's like, well, the Big 8 was like a few, years back now. But I mean, divisions have 8 teams, 7 teams in them right now. I think that some way, there's no way with the scheduling you're going to be able to make it fair.
You can't.
But it always plays. What I do love about college football is for some reason the math has worked out. For some reason, when you play 12 games, regardless of how many teams you play, and we kind of get down to the nitty gritty again, you only have about 4 or 5 teams, usually less, to be honest, that you're convinced that should be or has deserved of the championship game. And I think regardless how you do it, it will probably still play out that way. But like you said earlier, if you have 4 major conferences, how soon does it go down to 2? Same thing as when you have 2. If you have two major conferences, why not just make it one big league and sell the whole nation on it? And then you split it up back a little bit more geographically wise to make a little more sense. That would take the SEC and the Big Ten having an agreement, which I don't see very far right now.
Good luck.
An arms race than, coming together and working together.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating to see because it seems like, change is inevitable and it'll always happen in every measure of life. But especially in this circle that we're running now, it just seems like there's no end to it.
And that's what's most concerning is when and if the NCAA ever steps in. I think this has gone to the proportion they can't. Like, what can the NCAA do now to bring this back? I feel like it's done. The era of the super conference, however conferences that may be, it's here. Location doesn't matter. It's entirely based off money. For crying out loud, we're gonna have kids in Los Angeles playing in New Jersey the next day. It's location is thrown out the window. These conferences, it's become an absolute dumpster fire, and it'll be really interesting. I think if Notre Dame makes this jump, which is a big if, I think there's still a lot to be determined with Notre Dame, especially historically independent. They've never made this move. If there ever was a time, it would be now. If they make this move, it's going to be a free-for-all. It is going to be the absolute Wild West if Notre Dame makes this jump.
Well, the other thing is, and I'll tease this we'll finish up kind of thinking about the teams that the Big Ten should go after because the reports are out there. I'll just say this for a tease. Why not go to the ACC? Why not try to go all the way, make you got coast to coast. Now you just got to go south, maybe pluck a Texas team. And then you can really compete with the SEC. And I'll tell you why. Coming up next here, it says the Ticket Water Cooler, brought to you by Culligan Water. We're live from the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. Come on and visit us out here. Strick will be here any minute now. We'll finish up the Ticket Water Cooler coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket. Jake Bachman here, and I want to tell you about something that I do that is helpful in the health industry. I'm talking about Solarion, where if you're eligible, you can earn up to $500 per day while helping develop new pharmaceutical products. I've worked with Solarion for many years and keep going back because I feel confident in the well-trained staff and well-researched studies that I participate in. Plus, if you have a busy schedule, they have weekend studies or overnight studies that shouldn't affect your normal work hours. I feel confident in knowing that I am helping advance potentially life-changing medical treatments in the health industry. This research could improve the life of others, and by participating, it helps me out too. If you're curious about how to earn up to $500 per day for participating in a research study at Solarion, check them out at helpresearch.com/new or call them at 866-213-2965. Once again, that's Solarion at 866-213-2965 or at helpresearch.com/new.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric ensures our home and office HVAC systems run smoothly throughout the year to provide maximum comfort and convenience. Routine maintenance reduced our operating costs just by improving the efficiency of our unit. Consider a maintenance agreement to ensure you too receive priority for services and scheduling. This helps meet manufacturer warranty requirements. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Herrick Services takes this time to wish everyone a happy and healthy 4th of July weekend. We are thankful for this great nation and celebrate our independence, which should never be taken for granted. This important message comes to you from Bart, Mike, and the folks at Herrick Services, your vending specialists here in Lincoln. Their quality service and expertise has earned them a fine reputation. That's Herrick Services, on the air because they care. Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. There's nothing quite like the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese beef. The Mercato offers unique ingredients you can't find anywhere else, open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The full-service butcher shop and retail store is wonderful for meat lovers with their exclusive Certified Piedmontese beef and assorted sausages, plus other quality meats, including pork, chicken, and a wide range of the freshest seafood. Plus, every Friday from 11 to 2, the Mercato serves up the best lunch in town on their Friday Feast menu. Stop in at the Mercato today at 84th and Havelock or visit their website at cpmercado.com to see current deals.
You know that feeling after a good, hearty meal? The worries of the world just slip away. Time slows down. Nothing but good times and good company. That's what you get with Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Mary Ellen's does food right, with a menu that includes smoked wings, pulled pork, brisket, catfish. And don't sleep on their sides. Shrimp and grits, collard greens, baked beans. It's food that makes your heart happy. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul, just east of 27th and Pineland. Let them fix you a plate.
Hey, it's Nicklin Hames from Nebraska Volleyball. I hate wasting time in practice, and I want to help you stop wasting your time when you're looking for an electrician. High Electric has been serving the area for over 30 years for both residential and commercial properties. They are experts in everything like remodeling, new additions, hot tub installation, and more. And they take jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at high-electric.com.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler. Brought to you by Culligan of Lincoln on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Nick Sainer just walked out with a nice bag of that he's got here from the Mercato.
He sent me a Venmo request, too. This is garbage. I was hoping he'd just give them to me for free.
Oh, he's getting you some stuff.
Give me some, too. I got to stay in studio.
Yeah, he's got some nice stuff out here. We are live from the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. Today's special, buy one, get one free on Steakhouse Blend hamburger patties. Is that what you got ordered there?
Yeah,
today?
we got.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. Can't go wrong with BOGO. The offer is good only for the duration of the show today, which will extend past the Ticket Water Cooler into On the Block, as also the man, the myth, the legend, Eric Strickland is by my side. So he'll join me for On the Block here in a few minutes. Come by and check out their incredible variety of meats here at the Mercato. They have all types of cuts, plus there's some seafood as well. And so we're out here at Certified Piedmontese, or excuse me, at the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese. So come check that out with us and get what you need for this weekend's barbecue. Happy 4th of July weekend to everybody out there. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day to everybody out there as well, specifically Bobby Bonilla, who's cashing in on that money. But as we were going to break, I was stating that I like what the Big Ten has done, obviously expanding the footprint to LA. Absolutely huge. We've been talking about it for the last 2 days. We'll continue talking about it. But I don't know if it fixes the problem that inherently the Big Ten has. I think it gives you another top tier team in USC, like I've said before, that has a ceiling of Ohio State that can compete with some of these Southern schools. But the problem is the Southern schools have completely taken over college football as far as champions go. And we could talk about depth of conference like you like to do, Nate. But when I'm just talking about national champions since the year 2000, it's predominantly SEC. And if it's not, then it's Florida State. Then it's Clemson. Some of those other Southern teams in the SEC footprint. Now, Ohio State was able to do it once or twice now, I guess, if you go since the year 2000. And USC was able to do it twice since the year 2000. So again, I don't sound like a genius saying I think USC and Ohio State can compete because they've proven it. But it seems a little bit more difficult for them to set up their dynasty as opposed to the SEC. So my idea here is as much as you can add from the Pac-12, maybe group a couple Big Ten teams or former Big 12 teams in there to make Nebraska feel like they have some sparring partners, grab some Pac-12 teams to make, the USC, UCLA feel like they have some sparring partners. If I'm the Big Ten, and the report is they're waiting on Notre Dame, which would honestly be my first grab just because of what they mean historically. But if you're expanding beyond that, if you're expanding beyond Notre Dame, the report is that they're kind of on wait with Oregon and Washington. I would be looking at the ACC more so than anything. I'd be looking at Clemson. I'd be looking at Miami. I'd be looking at Florida State to try to get some of those other big-time brands, expand your footprint even more, but more importantly, into the South. In order to do that, if one of those teams is going to jump, you're going to have to sell them quite the package, right? Because they're going to be thinking, why would I do that rather than play regionally in the SEC if this is headed to two major conferences? So you are going to have to, present something that's going to be I don't know whether it's more of a share or something. It would be a little bit more difficult to get them to jump on board. And so maybe that's why there's a reluctancy to do it. But I think that's that you need to get into that southern market, because that's where the football players seem to be grown on trees these days, and certainly where the national titles are coming from. So I think if you want to it's great to compete in the TV market area, and that's where the Big Ten footprint is perfect. LA obviously adds so much to that, but so competing off the field for TV contracts is one thing, but if you want to compete on the field, I think you got to reach your hand into the ACC.
I would agree with you, Bach, but I just don't see any scenario whatsoever that an ACC school jumps to the Big Ten. I think that's going to become the issue about this, is because you have these schools, like you said, they play predominantly in the South. The SEC plays predominantly in the South. If you're a team like Clemson and Florida State, you know that you can play at the highest level. You know you can win a national championship right where you are. Why would you go play Minnesota every other year? Why would you go play Wisconsin every other? There's just no incentive. You would have to structure the TV deal and the media contract where they would be getting a bigger slice of the pie. And I just don't see these Big Ten teams willing to do that. Now, if it does become a super conference where it's just two, you might not have a choice. It might be, okay, if we really want to be the superior conference, we have to get these schools. I just don't see a situation where they would willingly go to the Big Ten with the SEC right there. And you already know the SEC's in Clemson's ear. They're in Miami's ear. They're in Florida State's ear. You'd be foolish to think that they're not. I mean, if they poach Texas and Oklahoma that easily, what makes you think that they're not telling Clemson the same thing? It would just be really, really tough for the Big Ten to be able to sell Clemson, Florida State coming and playing in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska.
It would be, but I think the only one of the things that you would have there is that, hey, like the same thing I just said is, you're not playing all those teams and fighting for those recruits within the SEC. You could be the Southern school if you bring in two of them, kind of these Southern two teams that might have a better chance to use that recruiting advantage to beat the rest of the Big Ten instead of being at the same playing field there in the SEC. That would be one thing to consider. The other thing is maybe if you don't get them, again, maybe you go to a Georgia Tech or Houston or something like that, the major cities. Georgia Tech's obviously in Atlanta, and say, we know that you're not that team. You're not the Florida States.
Right.
You're not,
and you never will be.
But maybe you can build that, build your brand, being the Southern team of the Big Ten to get those athletes and still kind of have that advantage. That's another possibility as we move down the line. I don't necessarily see it happening, again, just because it's going to be so difficult with the SEC in their backyard. Exactly. So I understand that. But if I'm the Big Ten, I start out with Florida State.
You got to try.
I might go to that level below and try to get into, expand your footprint even more, because at this point, geography doesn't mean a thing other than expanding it means more to you, because they've already done it coast to coast. So if you can get into the South, if you get into Texas, that could be a little bit of a game changer as well, if you want to compete on the field. So,
Texter has an interesting point real quick before you go, Bach. He said, not it's the end all be all, but due to the contracts in the ACC, it will cost the schools around $100 million to leave before 2026. That's the interesting part about all of it. 2026 is a long ways away, and that's a lot of money to get out of that contract.
Yeah, I think some of those teams are like locked in even longer, which is why painfully we might be a slow burn to get to this two major conference and just have this awkward phase in between, maybe for a decade.
Or maybe I was right all along, and it'll be three major conferences, the ACC. Surprises, it shocks the world. That's what we'll call it. The ACC.
They could.
The ACC versus everybody. Bring it on.
Be tough to get a playoff. Too many playoff spots with that, but we'll see how it works out. We'll continue this talk and so much more. Of course, On the Block will be coming up next, and we have the Block Party coming up. Mike Melby's going to join us at 5, but we got plenty Big Ten talk coming up, as well as much going on in the NBA. So we'll talk about that with Strick coming up next year on the Block, live from the Mercato by Certified Piedmontese. Come give us a visit out here at 84th and Havelock. We'll see you soon.
Work.